There's been a trend in college football this year where maybe during a blowout game, some fans of the home team might go up to the top of the stadium, take their shirts off, and start waving them around like towels. That's not what I expected to see here today in Gainesville. But that's exactly how halftime started. That's how halftime ended. That's how the third quarter started. That was the scene in Gainesville here today. Hey, welcome into the Rocky Top Insider Reaction Show. This is Ryan Sylvia. I'm Rick Butler here at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, talking about Tennessee's 31-11 win over Florida. Ryan, as we posted earlier on RockyTopInsider.com, 2 decades worth of demons were exercised here in this game, and it started early and it started often.
Yeah, no, I mean, the final score is not indicative at all of how dominant Tennessee was in this game. Both teams really decided they just wanted to sit on the ball in the second half. It's something Florida interim coach Billy Gonzalez said. Like, he admitted, he was like, both teams slowed down the tempo and both just kind of let that thing run out, which is almost a bizarre choice from Florida after you think back a couple weeks ago when South Carolina and Texas A&M met. It was a similar halftime score, and you saw how that turned out. But it was just all Tennessee. Maybe I think the only frustration right now for Tennessee fans is that the scoreboard wasn't lit up a little bit more, just because, as you mentioned, those 20-plus years of miserable games here in the Swamp. I think Tennessee fans really wanted to see a 70-0 win, but they'll certainly settle for a 20-point victory, which does tie the largest win in program history in the Swamp. So you do have that.
Yeah, like you said, there's more to talk about there in the first half because things did get a little bit more of a slow pace. And there are a couple of critiques to make, I think, in the second half. But you start with just that first quarter of action when Tennessee set the tone. In a lot of ways, that was a Josh Heupel masterclass in the way that he was calling plays. It almost felt like he had the cheat codes to what Florida was doing on defense. And look, at times this was a very uninspired effort from the Florida defense, but that to me doesn't take away what Tennessee was able to do, especially early in the game where the crowd is into things. And it was loud and it was noisy in here. Tennessee had their way with things. Ethan Davis gets a screen pass and slips down this sideline over here for a 20 to 30 yard touchdown. And then from there on, it was Deshaun Bishop over the pile. Deshaun Bishop over the pile. I believe Tennessee scored on their first 4 drives of the game, and then maybe even 5 out of their first 6, something along those lines. Again, this was Josh Heupel in his bag. You go back to some classic performances from him where he feels like he knows what the other defense is doing. He feels like he can, scheme right around that and scheme in his favor. This is one of those categories, and I think this is one of those games that people are going to be talking about for a while when they talk about Josh Heupel being that sort of play caller. Again, a 3-7 Florida team, so you don't want to make too much of it. Tennessee didn't win the national championship tonight or anything, but this was a really impressive performance, and frankly, a game that Tennessee needed to have.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about that Ethan Davis touchdown. That was kind of the definition, it felt like, where that happened. It was like, all right, Josh Heupel's feeling himself, and the play calling is looking strong. He establishes the run. It was Deshaun Bishop just getting hammered through Florida's defense, and it was just a continued pressing of the run game, and it was working. So then you have Ethan Davis, who's such a willing blocker. Yeah. You kind of almost fake him as a blocker. You fake the handoff, and then you get it out to the flat for Ethan Davis, and he's got a lot of green grass in front of him because Florida at that point is so committed to stopping the run. So it was just complimentary on both sides of the ball, but particularly on offense when you're running the ball so well. I thought they did a lot of nice things off of the run game, whether it was just getting Deshaun Bishop free, who had a really good game, or whether it was finding a tight end or a wide receiver on those types of plays. It just, top to bottom, especially that first half, it felt like Tennessee did whatever they wanted to on offense.
Deshaun Bishop had 7 carries, I believe, on the first drive of the game. We were joking up there in the press box that has been like half of his game totals for a lot of these games this year. Ended up being 7 of 24 total carries he had on the ground for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. No Peyton Lewis for this game. We knew that based on the availability report that had come out throughout the week. Star Thomas obviously gets some reps. Man, his 52-yard run on 3rd and 17 where he came so close to the end zone, ended up finding it on the next play. That was a major swing in this game. Not a swing in this game, but a major play in this game. But I think from the running back room, despite those 2 big performances, one of the standouts was DeJuan Morris, the true freshman. Absolutely. Josh Heupel talked about after the game, he said, look, a lot of these freshmen, they want to come in and play, and not directly to Morris, but just sort of in general. But there's a process to go through, and if you continue to do that process, you understand what's going on, you get in sync with your teammates, you get the right way on the ground and in the practice field, you're going to make plays in this game. DeJuan Morris certainly had that, and boy, I don't want to say an audition because he's obviously going to have a bigger role next year as things go forward, but what may be a jumping off point here at the end of the season to go into his sophomore year, his second year in Knoxville.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where he maybe steps into that Star Thomas role a little bit, where Star Thomas is out of eligibility theoretically after this year. I guess we'll see what all that ends up looking like. But theoretically he's out of eligibility. So if you want to continue to kind of have that trend of having that three-headed monster that Tennessee seems to like to have in the running back room, it'd make a lot of sense if DeJuan Morris just kind of naturally steps into that role. Peyton Lewis, once again, transfer portal, theoretically, Peyton Lewis is back. Theoretically, Deshaun Bishop is back. It would be at least a big surprise if Deshaun Bishop left, considering how, Knoxville kid and all that. But that's all besides the point. DeJuan Morris not only was good in the run game, he's been the punt returner and made smart decisions there. He was a kick returner tonight with Peyton Lewis out, and he did a good job in pass protection as well, which is a big sign for a true freshman running back, one of the harder things for them to usually pick up. So overall, I think you have to really like what he does, and it kind of maybe gives you a little bit more clarity for what next season could look like in that running back room.
Joey Aguilar he didn't set, but he had two big milestones in the passing department today. One of them I didn't even know he got until after the game. I think it might have happened while I was making my way down from the press box down to the field for the end of the game. He finishes the game 17 of 22 for 204 yards and a touchdown. Number one, he becomes Tennessee's, boy, I hope they get this right, Tennessee's fifth all-time passer to reach 3,000 single-season passing yards.
Yes.
But it happened for the sixth time in Tennessee history. None other than Peyton Manning did it twice. But that is an impressive list to be on. I believe it's Eric Ainge, Hendon Hooker, Peyton Manning, Tyler Bray, and now Joey Aguilar. It is just crazy to think about, that just a couple months ago, he was in a quarterback battle with a redshirt freshman and a true freshman, and then what has been made of this season. There was a little bit of a scary moment there in the first half when Florida is able to get the rush to him, has a fumble. There's been plenty of times that I certainly remember from times in the past, people who are older than me certainly remember from times in the past, but plays where one big momentum play can sort of swing Florida, get them the ball, get them some sort of chance to continue to make something out of it. Joey Aguilar did fumble, was able to recover it though, and I think that was a big moment for him. But kudos to Joey Aguilar for not only the 3,000-yard mark, but also hits 204 passing yards, 35 career games now in a row dating back to 2023 at App State, where he has more than 200 passing yards in each game.
And no one in the FBS has a longer streak of that. I thought he was pretty good today. The fumble stands out. Later in the game, maybe a little less accurate throwing towards the boundary, but overall, especially in that first half, he was automatic. The completion percentage was fantastic. At halftime, he had like 2 or 3 incompletions throughout the entire game. So a strong performance from him. He kind of took what was given to him. He ran the ball when he needed to as well. I think you have to feel pretty good about where he's at right now. And the big number is, too, jumped on his own fumble, so the turnover mark stood at 0. And the interception thing was a little shaky going into this game, and probably the biggest criticism after that has become a thing that started to plague him this season. No interceptions. I think that's a huge deal going to this Vanderbilt game, where it feels like kind of every point you get, every possession is going to matter a lot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There's a lot of positives from this game, and we're going to continue talking about them over on the RTI Press Pass. You can find that on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. But one thing I do think is a little bit notable is there were still some moments in this game where Tennessee struggled with tackling on the defensive side of the ball. It was obviously that big play that got taken back there. I believe it might have been the Gators' first drive of the game, maybe even the second. But a massive play right here down this sideline right here for the Florida offense gets taken back by a holding penalty. Obviously, that kept the ball in Tennessee's direction. But tackling still something that I think needs to be cleaned up a little bit. Needs to be, I don't know if addressed is the right word. I know it's been addressed throughout the season.
It's been addressed
mainly what I'm trying to say is against Vanderbilt next week, and with all the potent offense that they have, can't have as many missed tackles as we've seen. So not a ton to criticize in a 1 touchdown, 1 field goal game, but I think that was one of the things that just kind of stood out to me at some point throughout.
I just think it took a step back. Like it felt a lot better in that Oklahoma game when you faced a John Mateer, who's going to be more similar to Diego Pavia, where he's very willing to tuck the ball and run it himself. It felt like the tackling was a lot better in that game. This game, not so much. Didn't fit the runs very well at times. And Florida's got a really good back, and he's dynamic in the pass game. He caught their only touchdown. He was the guy who had that explosive play in the pass game as well that got called back, but he also ran the ball really well. So was it a tough challenge to defend that? Yeah, but Tennessee needed to do better. You're right. Some of it was just as basic as the tackling. Some of it's a little more, I guess, in the weeds that they'll need to clean up. But Diego Pavia is a willing runner, to say the least. So you're going to have to figure out a way to limit that, to stop that if you want to win that game. And like I said, you showed the flash of it against Oklahoma. Can you go back to that type of Tennessee defense? Because that'll get the job done against Vanderbilt. or is it going to be the one that we saw tonight, where it is kind of the dark point if you had to pick one? And if it's that defense, then maybe things get shaky.
Again, a lot more to break down about this game. We will do so, Ryan Sylvia and myself, over on the Rocky Top Insider Press Pass podcast, which you can check out on YouTube and wherever you get your favorite podcasts. I don't know if I said it at the beginning, so I'll certainly say it at the end here. Tennessee breaks the streak, and I know most of East Tennessee and a large part of Tennessee fans around the country, they might have been holding their breath until the clock hit zero, but that's what happened tonight. The clock hit zero. Tennessee won by a score of 31-11, and the 22-year losing streak here at the Swamp officially breaks. A huge moment for Tennessee and a huge moment for Josh Heupel, as Tennessee now goes back to the drawing board to prepare for Vanderbilt in the season finale back home in Knoxville. So a streak-breaking night for Tennessee, a record-continuing night for Joey Aguilar, and ultimately just a great night for Vol Nation and a lot of happy Tennessee fans around the country right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk a little more on the press pass, but obviously I think everyone gives this one 2 thumbs up.
So Ryan Sylvia, I'm Rick Butler. Thanks for watching the Rocky Top Insider Reaction Show.